Let me introduce our audience to you properly. Delroy, welcome from Kingston, Jamaica. You're Senator Delroy Williams. You're sworn in as the chairman of Kingston and St. Andrews Municipal Corporation in December 2016. And I've been told that your vision has been to transform the city into a sustainable tourist and business hub, as well as creating a network of Caribbean cities for the regional integration and cooperation. Konrad from Rzeszów in Poland. I understand that this is the largest city in southern Poland, dates from the Middle Ages, maybe a bit like Turku in Finland that we heard of earlier. But your city's gone through radical change since the Russian invasion of Ukraine, and you've now become the main artery for goods and military supplies into Ukraine from Europe. Saskia, welcome from Den Haag, the Hague in the Netherlands. Netherlands is on the west coast, Den Haag is on the west coast, facing the North Sea, as is the Netherlands. You're also the international city of peace and justice, so you're very aware of dealing with complexity. You've got lots of practice at that. And your city's approach to tackling climate change is one of the most ambitious in the world, which I understand it needs to be, as Den Haag sits just 1 meter above sea levels. So my first question to all three of you is, what does it mean to be a city today in 2023? So we've talked about cities have changed a huge amount over the last couple of years. We've had COVID, we've had Ukraine, we've got population migrations, climatic events, economic events. What does it mean to be a city today for you? Saskia, do you want to give us?
Yes, thank you very much, and thank you for being here. It's an honor and a wonderful day. Yeah, of course, in cities, challenges are occurring, come more to life and more manifest than in other places. It comes together, and we see the last years with COVID and also with the Ukrainian crisis and the energy crisis, what comes with that. Well, we faced a lot of challenges, if I can say that. And then you see that especially vulnerable people or people who have not enough money or whatsoever, or not healthy, they have even the more problems than others. And so we have to face that and to work on that. What we want to do, of course, as City of Peace and Justice, but also as a shelter city, which The Hague also is to give housing for the people who are fleeing from other countries, but also to find affordable housing, to find places, to keep on with the education, and with COVID, yeah, we now in fact have a kind of a system of people working at home and with
telework and remote work.
So digital meetings, etc. So, but it is a challenge because The Hague is seated by the sea. We cannot expand. We cannot build into the sea. So we have to be very keen on how to use our space and our room in the city.
Okay, so from an island I beg your pardon, from a city that's sort of by the sea, let's move to an island. And yourself, Delroy, what does it mean to be a city today in 2023? How has it changed for you the last couple of years?
Well, in a nutshell, the issues, I've heard you use the word complexity. I refer to the issues confronting cities as the problem of complexity. And so you're facing new challenges, once in a century challenges, but your residents are demanding that you find solutions. And that's very critical as elected representatives, that you're facing these challenges and your residents are asking and demanding that solutions be found. So in this case, the issue of planning, I find that we have to be far more focused on planning. We have to be dealing with infrastructure replacement, not just upgrading, but infrastructure replacement, and all those issues surrounding infrastructure, like financing is a major issue. Infrastructure financing is a major issue within middle-income cities like Kingston. So those are issues you have to be dealing with. Then you are also dealing with a culture of municipal governance, where in Kingston, municipal governance was focused on, for want of a better term, the smaller parochial municipal issues. Now you find that the issue of financing and the challenges that you are faced, that you have to find the financing for far more elaborate infrastructural work at the municipal level. And so you have to also now be challenging this and confronting this culture of, I refer to easy governance, with one of making your municipalities fiscally stable in order to access financing for major infrastructure replacement and upgrading. So I would say this generally is the challenge we face. And furthermore, we have to also be dealing with the public health issues as the COVID pandemic would have taught us.
Yeah, and I think what you've illustrated there and alluded to also is that you mentioned sort of like once in a century events or things like COVID. These things now seem to be coming at us a bit more frequently. So our adaptation, in fact, that's what I'm going to come to in a second, needs to increase. But first of all, Konrad, your city's gone through a huge amount of change in the last couple of years, but since the Ukrainian invasion by Russia. What does it mean to be a city for you today in 2023?
You know, I am a new mayor, quite new mayor, because I was elected 2 years ago. And when I started my work as a mayor, I had pandemic times. So first crisis, I had to work on how to change, how to rebuild trust for the municipality, for example, for the administration. After that, I had in Polish big changes in tax system. So it was terrible times for municipality. Second crisis. Now I have big crisis, refugees crisis, and big challenges in this. So third crisis. We have also energy crisis. So I would say that today's city is very resilient, adaptive, and agile city. I think we have to be agile. We have to be adaptative because we cannot to find solution in such many crises. For example, the biggest challenge now is of course linked with refugees crisis. Rzeszów is located only 80 kilometers from the border with Ukraine. And as you mentioned, Rzeszów is the first big city on the board. So that's why we had big challenge with refugees crisis. And my city has become a huge humanitarian and military aid hub for Ukraine. From one hand, we gave care to people escaping from the war. At the peak of the wave of refugees, our residents provided accommodation to 100,000 refugees. You know, our city normally has 200,000 citizens. So this is the scale of this challenge, and this is the scale about crisis, and this is of course scale of our success, because you know, as I said, we gave them accommodation, we gave them care, and we didn't establish, for example, you know, refugees camps or so on. Our residents took them to their own houses, their own flats, and so on. So on the other hand, a huge part of humanitarian and military aid is sent to Ukraine through our city, through our airport also. So basically all goods, almost all goods that are flown to Ukraine land in Rzeszów, and then distributed further east by road or railway. So Rzeszów has shown its hospitality. And the way we coped with this shows how the city and the citizens are able to adapt to the changeable situation. So I think it is a key thing and key fact in our future in cities.
Konrad, your example there from Rzeszów is an example of a huge challenge, a huge change. Even as you said before all of this, you were tackling with COVID and tax change, and then this happened, and you've shared with us some of the strategies that you and your citizens have used to rise to this challenge. Saskia, what's the biggest challenge that you and Den Haag are currently facing, and what new adaptation strategies are you having to put into place to deal with this?
Yes, thank you. Of course, and that's not only for The Hague. The climate change is one of the biggest challenges we face. And as already said, The Hague is a city in the lower lands of the Netherlands, near the sea, with just 1 meter above sea level. So we have to work on that. We keep dry feet in the future, to say it simple, and that's a big challenge. The Netherlands has a long history in water management, a lot of knowledge in water management, so we use that. But this is one of our main issues. The other one, of course, is the energy transition in a broader way, which comes with that. And we really like to stop with using fossil energy. We have, fortunately, very good geothermal possibilities in our grounds, and we try to use the warmth what's coming from industry in the harbor of Rotterdam. All these kind of innovations we work on. But the water is a very big one, and what we're doing now is making a water scan. We do that together with the University of Delft, Technical University. A water scan which has to show all kind of vulnerabilities and the possibilities we have to face them.
Okay, so in order to keep your feet dry, as you say, but also work on this energy transition, working with those universities, working, I imagine, with sort of startups and the technology to make sure you've got the data and the know-how, yes, but also you're aware of your vulnerabilities and knowing.
Yes, that's right. And I think it's very important to use the strength of other institutions, the universities, but the knowledge of some of other cities. We're part of the 100 Resilient Network. That's a global network, and we change ideas and knowledge together, and that's important.
Thank you. Let's go from Den Haag back to Kingston, Jamaica. What's the biggest challenge for you right now, Delroy, and what's the new adaptation strategies you're putting into place?
Well, the Caribbean Sustainability Network has projected that Kingston is one of 2 cities that will reach climate departure in 2023. We are now in 2023. So I believe they are kind of changing the date to 2028, but still very pertinent to us. So we have to be prepared and deal with issues like water scarcity and also land use. With respect to water scarcity, we have been replacing our water pipelines. We have been putting in new pipelines. We have been connecting or linking different dams and reservoirs, so has to give us more control over how we regulate and control water supply throughout the city. So that's one way we have been preparing for that. The issue of land use is also another major issue. We have done soil instability studies, partnering with the University of Chester, and based on the results of that research, we have come up with it has informed our land use decision in terms of where we put our housing, because in Kingston, people build houses if you do not enforce strongly anywhere.
Okay.
I've heard it said before that people build ad hoc in an ad hoc way on hillside, and so it's similar in Kingston. So the enforcement has to be very strong, and there are areas in Kingston that we have decided that we have no building, no form of structures going. There are some other areas based on the studies that we have decided to allow use for residential purposes, but only certain types. So the building designs become very important here. So I would say those are two quick adaptation strategies that we have been utilizing. There's also the issue of the municipality approves building applications. So if you're putting a structure in the municipality, we are the ones who do the approvals. We have been also making a conditions of those approvals, certain measures, certain strategies, like rainwater harvesting, rooftop gardens, being able to, for multifamily developments, we are asking that water be managed on site for different purposes, but also for controlled release in the environment. I would just say quickly, there's the other issue of flooding. We have seen increased flooding within the city of Kingston, primarily arising out of the increase in construction in land use primarily for residential purposes, and which is increasing the surface runoff. And the drain network is the same, so increased surface runoff is causing flooding in Kingston. So we have also been putting in measures to ensure far greater water infiltration so as to reduce flooding.
So by more carefully managing the land as such, and where people can build, where people can't build, how that space is used, that's an adaptation, an illustration of an adaptation strategy from there. Now, we've talked about yourselves and adaptation strategies that you're using, but I want us to sort of be able to learn from your experience, your expertise that you have here, and consider how is it, based on your experiences, that cities and citizens and citizen communities are going to have to think and act differently in order for our cities to become more adaptable, more resilient moving forwards. What are some of the learnings that you can share with the audience here, or some of the obstacles that you think and mindset changes that we need in order to be able to go further and make more resilient cities? Konrad, how about yourself?
You know, for example, Rzeszów has been selected to the 100 European cities that are to become climate neutral in 2030. Yeah. It's our mission now. And of course, I'm very proud of it, but also I know exactly that it is a big challenge. And even we have, of course, as I said, refugees crisis, we don't want to change our main goal. So we want to create carbon neutral city, but of course we need good tools for it. Yeah. So for example, for me, I try to create a new fields for citizens. For example, to speak with them, to discuss with them about our net zero mission. And for example, I created something like municipality tools. It is urban lab. It is friendly space in our city, addressed to our citizens, to our NGOs, to our businesses also. And we are trying to create diagnose where we have the problems in these missions, and then discuss about possibilities to find solutions, then testing, and of course, if it works, scaling for all city. And it's a good tool also for, as I said, build trust in our citizens, because without trust we cannot be neutral, climate neutral in 2030, because they have to understand why this is such important.
Trust is, of course, critical, whether we're talking about our citizens, our stakeholders, other stakeholders within the city, to being able to adapt and change. And thank you for telling us about your urban lab there. Saskia, how about sort of what is needed, what learnings from adaptability and resilience can you share with us?
I have 3 learning points and one obstacle, if I may say so.
Go for it.
The learning points is we keep on working together with the startups, The Hague being an impact city with a lot of impact startups we're very proud of, to use their knowledge in our approaches, and even to invite them to be in our municipality, in our administration, to work together with the people of administration for new solutions. That's one. The second one is that we have to really build this future challenges like this climate and energy in our daily systems in the city, with our residents in the city. So that is a part of normal life we have to face and you have to work on together. And the third learning is that we keep on learning from other cities and other stakeholders. And the obstacle I see is that, well, we often like to used to work from election to election, even 4 years, but we need to have a long-term financing and a long-term view on facing these problems, and that's not always the political reality. And I think there is a big challenge for us as public governors and local governors to keep on saying we have to look behind the next elections. We have to look further into time. Keep going on despite.
Yeah, I see many heads nodding on stage and in the audience to your remark there, Saskia. Delroy, yourself, what is it we need to change in order to become more adaptable and more resilient?
Well, before I say that, I use the term climate departure, but I'm not sure if, I'll just briefly explain it. Climate departure is in a nutshell, when your average temperature in your coolest year is warmer than your average temperature in your hottest year, and that is projected to be there from going on. So in a nutshell, it's the average temperature in your coolest year is projected to be warmer than the average temperature in your hottest year, and it's covered the period 1960 to 2005. So in terms of the working with communities is critical. Having the communities be a part of your studies, your research, and your strategies, your solutions. For example, we have done many risk and vulnerability studies in Kingston, and always we involve the communities, and always they are part of the solutions. I mean, in whatsoever. The solutions are usually, as best as we can, more people-centered, which means that it is the behavior of people or their farming practices, etc., that can easily provide solutions. And so we try and get this, have the people participating and have them participating in the solutions and the implementation. That helps you in terms of your election period, because once the people are involved and they are part of the solution, then it doesn't matter if you change administration. The likelihood of continuing the solutions and in the implementation of those is high, that it would continue, because the people will keep pushing for it once they have an understanding of it. So I would say that most of what we do in the city of Kingston involves the citizens, and there are different areas and for different vulnerabilities, different solutions, but we tend to have them involved.
Thank you, and in fact that echoes a little what Mina Ave was saying in the panel just a little earlier, with creating the youth councils to get the people involved also at an early age. And in fact, Delroy, you've very nicely lined up my next speaker, who's going to be talking about how we can involve communities and citizens also. It's been an absolute pleasure having all three of you here with us, Konrad, Saskia, and Delroy. I want to thank you so much for sharing your experience, your expertise, and your learnings with our audience here at Change Now. Thank you so much.